You are standing in line. Someone cuts in front of you. You didn't think about whether that was wrong. You already knew. No rule book, no legal code. The wrongness arrived before any reasoning did. And here is what makes that feeling extraordinary. A civilization on the opposite side of the planet, separated from your ancestors by oceans, with no shared language, no shared religion, no contact for thousands of years, felt exactly the same way. That is not a coincidence, and the real answer is far more interesting than anything your history class ever told you. In 1943, a British scholar named C.S. Lewis published a short book called The Abolition of Man. It made one precise, systematic argument. Every major civilization in human history, Egyptian, Babylonian, Chinese, Indian, Greek, Norse, Roman, Hebrew, independently arrived at the same foundational moral code. Lewis called it the Tao, not because it was Eastern in origin, because he needed a name for something with no clean translation in any single language. A name for a moral law that appeared to be written into the human mind itself. Lewis spent the appendix of that book doing something unusual. He listed the rules. He cited the original ancient sources, and when you lay them side by side, the overlap is not approximate. It is precise. The same seven ideas appear in virtually every moral tradition ever documented on Earth, separated by oceans, separated by centuries, and yet the same. Rule 1. Do not kill the innocent. It appears in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, in the Babylonian hymn to Samas, in Confucius, in the Hebrew Ten Commandments, and in the legal codes of civilization that had never heard of each other. The phrasing differs. The rule does not. Rule 2. Care for the young and the vulnerable. Ancient Egypt counted neglect of the widow and orphan among the gravest of moral failures. The Hindu laws of Manu described detailed obligations toward children and the elderly. The Norse held that abandoning the defenseless brought permanent shame onto a man's entire lineage. And every culture, every continent, the same obligation. Rule 3. Honor those who came before you. The Romans celebrated the parentalia. The Chinese held annual ceremonies for deceased parents. The Egyptians believed ancestors watched over the living and deserved ongoing respect. The Hebrew commandment to honor your father and mother was not a cultural quirk. It was one expression of something universal. The recognition that you owe something to the people whose decisions made your existence possible. Rule 4. Do not steal. Every legal code ever written prohibits this. But notice what the ancient justification was. Not social utility, not efficiency. The justification was dignity. What belongs to another person is bound up with that person. To take it is to violate not just a transaction, but a self. Rule 5. The Golden Rule. Do not do to others what you would not have done to you. Confucius said it in China around 500 BC. The Hindu Mahabharata said it. The Babylonian Talmud said it. The Greek philosopher Isocrates said it in the 4th century BC. Jesus said it in the Gospel of Matthew. 5 traditions, centuries apart. One sentence, arrived at independently every time. Rule 6. Do not lie. In Egyptian tradition, the soul in the afterlife had to declare it had not spoken falsehood. In Zoroastrianism, the central cosmic conflict was framed as the war between truth and a lie. In Confucian ethics, calling things by their true names was the foundation of any moral code whatsoever. The insight was always the same. Deception does not damage one transaction. It corrodes the entire structure of trust that makes civilization possible. Rule 7. Loyalty to those who are yours. Every moral tradition recognizes special obligations to family, to community, to your own people. Not as tribalism, but as the necessary starting point of love. Every great ethical tradition in history, from Buddhism to Stoicism to Christianity, understood that care must take root in particular relationships before it can extend outward to strangers. Now, here is where this stops being interesting and starts being genuinely strange. In 1991, the anthropologist Donald Brown published Human Universals, a catalog of every human behavior documented across every culture ever studied. Moral condemnation of murder, prohibitions on theft, rules of reciprocity, obligations toward children, norms against deception. The list matched almost exactly what Lewis had described in 1943 from a completely different starting point using completely different methods. Then came Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist at New York University. His research identified what he calls moral foundations, the basic categories of moral concern that appear in every human society ever studied: care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity. The specific rules built on top of these foundations vary by culture. The foundations themselves do not vary, they appear everywhere. Haidt is not a theologian. He is a secular empiricist reporting what he found in the data. And what he found in the data matches what Lewis found in ancient texts and what Brown found in the anthropological record. The same rules, everywhere, always. So here's the question that forces itself on you. Were these rules invented, or were they discovered? Lewis argued they were discovered. He argued the convergence was too precise, too consistent, across too many independent civilizations to be explained by coincidence. That when every culture in human history independently arrives at the same conclusions about what is owed to the innocent, to children, to the truth, and to the stranger, you are not looking at cultural construction. You are looking at a reflection of something real. What you call that thing depends on your tradition. Natural law, the Tao, the moral sense, the image of God imprinted in the human person. The name differs. The thing they are pointing at does not. And here is what that means for you. The next time you feel something is wrong before you can explain why. The next time you witness an injustice and your body reacts before your mind has finished a single sentence, you are not experiencing a cultural reflex. You are not reacting out of habit or upbringing alone. You are recognizing something, something that ancient Egypt and ancient China and ancient Rome each arrived at independently, on their own, centuries apart, without any of them knowing the others had done the same. You are standing in line, someone cuts in front of you, and you already know. You have always already known.